More than likely, many of you have no idea who that is. I purposely didn't put it in the bulletin because I didn't want you looking it up beforehand. That's Athaliah. We'll get to her in a minute, okay? It's a woman, and we'll get to her in a minute. I need to give you some background of who Athaliah is and what the dynamic is of the situation. What I want you to pay attention to this morning is, especially if you're young people, it makes a difference who you get married to. Make sure you pay attention to who you hang around with. Friends, people in your life, but especially be careful who you marry. Because the things you do are generational. They are generational. You will do things and say things and become things that your children will carry with them. You will do things on the job that you can't take back. So be careful who you run with and who you hang with, especially if you're a young person in here this morning. And always remember, God's got a plan. No matter how chaotic, no matter how bleak, no matter how disruptive life is, God's always got a plan. Okay? You'll see that as this unfolds. Now let me give you some history. Right after Solomon dies, the kingdom is divided. There's a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom. The northern kingdom has 10 tribes. The southern kingdom has 2. The northern kingdom is called Israel. The southern kingdom is called Judah. The northern kingdom has 19 kings. Never has a good king. Not one. The southern kingdom has numerous kings, and many of them are good. 4 or 5 of them are good kings. In this time frame of this individual is in the time frame of Ahab and Jezebel. Y'all know who they are. Okay? This is Ahab and Jezebel's daughter. She lives in the house watching what Ahab and Jezebel do. Okay? The king in the southern kingdom in Judah is Jehoshaphat. And he's a pretty good king. Does pretty well. But he makes a big, big mistake. He wants peace between the two nations. So he decides to marry his son to Ahab and Jezebel's daughter, Athaliah. So it gets really bad. There is another player in this whole scene, and her name is Jehoshaphat. But we'll get to her in a little while. You'll see that lady marries somebody really good. And that's going to play out in God's plan down the road. But I really want you to pay attention, because I'm going to ask you at the end of this, all right? Be careful who you run with. Be careful. Because Athaliah is going to become really, really bad. Do any of you know who she is? Have any of you ever studied her? That's what I figured. 1 or 2. When I put that name up there, and I told Amber, make sure you don't put it up until I'm walking up there. Most of you couldn't even pronounce it, could you? Didn't even know what it was. Didn't know if it was a guy or a girl. So Jehoshaphat marries his son Jehoram to this lady Athaliah. And the first slide we're going to go to is we're going to go to 2 Chronicles chapter 21. And this is just a little snippet. You get to see what's going on here, okay? When Jehoram, and we're in verse 4, when Jehoram established himself firmly over his father's kingdom, now his father has died, and he's going to become king. He becomes king. He put all his brothers to the sword along with some of the officials of Israel. Wonderful guy. But you'll see, as we go along, that he taught that from his wife. Okay? So, he puts all of his brothers to the sword. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years. He followed the ways of the kings of Israel as the house of Ahab had done, for he married a daughter of Ahab. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Okay? Doesn't tell us here. You have to go study it out. But but his wife's name is Athaliah. That's who he marries. The lady that grew up at the feet of Jezebel. Jezebel and Ahab were probably the worst king and queen combo ever before this lady showed up. This lady's going to be as bad or worse. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Okay? Now, I want you to see something. If you go to the next slide, it's all the way to chapter 24. And it's just some time later, but I wanted you to see this. Now, the sons of that wicked woman, Athaliah, had broken into the temple of God and had used even its sacred objects for the Baals. So, she brings Baal worship to the southern kingdom. She brings the worship to the Asherah, the goddess of fertility, to the southern kingdom, which had not been there before. And so they break into the temple of God, steal the stuff, and use it in their worship to the god Baal. You getting a picture of this lady? And she uses her sons to do that. You'll meet one of her sons in just a minute. Now look at the next slide. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. Now, I'm going to stop right here because Jehoram is dead. God's plan is starting to unfold, and he kills Jehoram, or has him killed. His son Ahaziah takes over the kingdom. He's 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. 1 year. Okay? His mother's name was Athaliah, a daughter of Omri, a granddaughter of Omri. If you look up Omri, Omri was Ahab's father. And he was as bad or worse than Ahab was. He too followed the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother encouraged him to act wickedly. Now, ladies, I'm going to assume, for the biggest part in this room, that you ladies are not encouraging your sons and daughters to be evil. Think about what that means. This woman is so evil that she takes her son, all right, and makes him as evil as she is. Sweet lady. He follows the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother encouraged him to act wickedly. I think that if you look at this and you understand what the dynamic was. Athaliah grows up in an evil, wicked house, and she watches that from a young girl. From a very young age. She watches her mother and her father do. Her father at one point wanted a vineyard, and the guy wouldn't sell it to him. So Jezebel found out, and she went out and killed the guy. And just took the vineyard. His name was Naboth. And Athaliah has grown up in that house and watched all of this. All she has to go on is what she's seen her mother do. That's why I said a while ago that what you do in your home, it can be generational, good and bad. It can follow your family through your children and through their children for a long time. This woman's got a solution to that, though. At least she thinks she does. Remember I told you that God's got a plan. All right? God's going to take care of this. He's going to take care of all of this that's going on here. Now, I want you to go to the next slide, Amber. Ahaziah gets killed by Jehu. God raises up Jehu to kill Ahaziah, her son, her and Jehoram's son. Remember, he's the guy that she was encouraging to be evil. He reigns 1 year. And it says, when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she proceeded to destroy the whole royal family of the house of Judah. You know what she did? She killed all of her grandchildren. I'm going to say it again. She killed all of her grandchildren. She killed them so that they wouldn't take on power after Ahaziah. Yeah, y'all can go like that. Absolutely. It doesn't even fit in your mind, does it? This woman is so evil. And I was talking to these people right here and grandmother, right? You go out and you kill your granddaughter because she's in the way. Because you want something that they can get. So she kills them all. Look at what it says again. It says, she proceeded to destroy the whole royal family of the house of Judah. She killed them all. Killed everybody. Now look at the next slide. But Jehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram, her daughter, okay, grew up in the same house as Ahaziah, Jehosheba, okay? So she kills all of these kids, all these people, she kills them because she wants to take power. So it says, and here's God's plan starting to unfold. Now, took Joash, son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the royal princes who were about to be murdered, and put him and his nurse in a bedroom, because Jehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram, and wife of the priest Jehoiada, was Ahaziah's sister. She hid the child from Athaliah so she could not kill him. You know where she hides him? She takes him to the temple, and to one of the bedrooms on the upper floor. She hides him in the upper floor bedroom. Where's the last place Athaliah is going to go? To the temple. She ain't going to go in there. She hides him for 6 years. For 6 years. You know when Joash takes power, you know how old he is? 7. That means they were afraid. Jehosheba was afraid she was going to kill this 1-year-old baby. That's exactly what she was going to do. Kill this baby. So Jehosheba takes him, steals him, and hides him in the temple. Sweet lady, huh? Remember, guys, be careful who you marry. Be careful who you associate with, because it can reach up and bite you one day. But God's got a plan. Here's the plan as it unfolds. Because I remember I told you, Jehosheba was married to Jehoiada. Jehoiada is the high priest, a good man. Jehosheba is a good woman. How did she do that when she grew up in the same household as Ahaziah? She grew up in the same house. Had the same influences of that woman, and she turned on that woman. I've seen that happen before. I've seen 2 people grow up in the same house, and one turn out really bad, just like the family does, and the other one is so good you can't believe it. And that's what happens. God's plan starts to unfold. Remember, God had a plan, and his plan was he would never let the throne depart from David's seed line. Okay? It says that numerous times in this text. I just didn't read it all. He promised David that. Joash is it. A 7-year-old is it. He saved a 7-year-old through this evil, despicable woman, through her daughter. When it gets chaotic, guys, and it seems like there's no other options, God's always got a plan. Just because you don't know what the plan is does not mean he doesn't have one. I can tell you that Athaliah has no clue what the plan is. She doesn't. She reigns for 6 years. She's killed everybody off. She killed all the people off. Okay? I want you to turn to the last slide. When Athaliah heard the noise, now this is 6 years later, okay? We're in chapter 23, and she's queen, the only queen that Judah ever has. Okay? Never has another. She's the only woman that ever rules. She rules for 6 years. Okay? She's killed all of her grandchildren. Her son has killed all of his brothers, all the older brothers. There's no one left except Joash. And she has no clue. And it says in chapter 23, When Athaliah heard the noise as they made him king, Jehoiada has gotten all the people together, and there's a celebration going on, and they're hooting and hollering, and everybody's having a great time, and Athaliah hears it. When she heard the noise of the people running out and cheering the king, she went to them at the temple of the Lord. She looked, and there was the king standing by his pillar at the entrance. The officers and the trumpeters were beside the king, and all the people of the land were rejoicing and blowing trumpets, and musicians with their instruments were leading the praise. Then Athaliah tore her robes and shouted, "Treason! Treason!" And Jehoiada says, "Get that woman, take her outside the temple, and kill her." And they kill her outside the temple. It makes a difference who's involved in your life. Okay? It makes a difference. Some people seem really, really good. And especially when you're young and you're looking for a mate and you're going, oh, I'm so in love. Make sure you know who they are and what they are. I'm not saying you'll marry an Athaliah, but it could seem almost as bad. When you look at this and you say, okay, what can I learn from this? I mean, that's just a history lesson. What am I going to learn? Do you believe God's got a plan for you? Do you believe God's got a plan for this world? Does it look chaotic? Does it look evil? Sure, it's evil all the way around us. Some of you are having to go to work and work at places where it's completely despicable. People are evil. And you have to work there. And you hear the nonsense, you hear the garbage, or you have to go in the grocery store and you hear it in the grocery store. You hear it in the other places. You see it everywhere. It makes a difference. And the hardest thing to realize sometimes is that what we do can be generational. It can be generational. It can carry over through time of what I've done and what I've said. I have done some things in my family that I've watched my children do, and I know that it was me and I was wrong. I've seen it. And all I can do now is try to be the best I can be better so that they can see the difference. What kind of chaos do you think was in Athaliah's house and Ahaziah and Jehoshabe's house as she went through? And we only have bits and pieces of what she did. She ruled for 6 years. You don't think there was more garbage going on? This woman was evil. She was probably worse than her mother. If it can be said that she was worse than Jezebel, probably was. And as I was preparing this, I thought, how do I get across to these women that this woman killed her grandchildren to assume power? Catherine killing her children. It makes no sense to us, does it? Because we're not evil. But to a woman like this, and as I started studying, I didn't even realize who she was. It took me a while to figure this out, and I got confused yesterday, and I was studying some stuff, and I went to Jordan and I said, "Man, I'm in trouble." What? She said, "I just found a contradiction in some stuff." And what I found out is there's a whole lot of different people named a whole lot of the same, and there was the same people married at the same time with the same name, and I was looking at the wrong one. That's why you have to study, guys. That's why you have to pore over the text to find out if what you're teaching is the truth. And I found out, no, I wasn't off base. I just saw for a moment a text that had something different. And I said, how can this be different? Can't be. Guys, I want you to always remember this. And I'm going to close with this. And I'm not really closing because we've got a unique opportunity this morning. We're going to have somebody baptized this morning. So I'm going to cut this a little bit short because of that. I don't know if you know her. Her name is Diana Guajardo. Y'all know Daniel, sitting right back there with his arms crossed like that. Y'all know Andy and Terry. Y'all know we've been praying for Anita. Y'all remember that, praying for Anita? We've been praying for her a lot. And Diana wants to be baptized. And so Friday night we studied for an hour about baptism with her. She decided she wanted her family here and she wanted to do it in front of you. So we're going to do that this morning. But I'm going to call her up here in just a minute. But I just wanted you to know that God's always got a plan. Always. You may not know what the plan is. You may not even like the plan. You may not. But He's got a plan. He accomplished the plan to keep David's seed line intact through a little bitty baby and a 7-year-old king. His name is Joash. And he raised up a man named Jehu to eliminate Ahab's family. And they killed Athaliah because she was so evil. And they killed Ahaziah, the brother. And Jehoshaphat, the sister, and her husband raised up, and God used them. Out of this whole narrative, I want to have a family like Jehoshaphat and Jehoiada, the high priest and the sister, who was not going to be turned, was not going to be swayed, was not going to be swayed by her mom, who was evil and despicable. Can you imagine how fearful she was that she might want to kill her children? Because when it gets evil like that, you don't know what they're going to do. Be careful who you associate with. That's why I picked the text I did for the scripture reading. Be careful who you associate with. Sometimes you'll have to quit a job because you can't deal with them. You can't. Sometimes you'll have to walk away from family because you can't deal with them, because of the things they're doing. I've told you many times about the people in my life, but I know there's people in your life that you've had to walk away from because you can't deal with them because they're not good for you. Luz and I talked about it the other day, about some people in her life that she needs to avoid because of what they're doing in her life. The world's evil, guys. I picked Athaliah because I wanted you to see what that looked like. I wanted you to get a history lesson of what evil looks like as it goes down through the generation of Omri, Ahab, Jezebel, and Athaliah, and then ends, because God ends it with a little boy, 7 years old. If you need us this morning, I'm going to call Diana up here. I've got some ladies that are going to go back with her, and we're going to come up here and we're going to baptize her. And you're going to get to experience a birth this morning. Not a physical birth, a spiritual birth. And I want her family to come up here and sit up here in the front because I want them to be able to see. So if y'all want to come up here, I want y'all to come up here with her. If you need us, Larry's going to sing a song while we're getting ready. And we've got a couple other elders back here, and they're going to be standing around. And if you need them, go to one of them, or wait for me and come to me afterwards, or come to me over at the lunch, and I'll be glad to sit down and visit with you. I know that Curtis wanted to meet with me, but can't do it this morning. He's got to leave, so we're gonna do it on the phone sometime this week. So come to us and talk to us. We'd love to have you. I'd love to be able to talk with you and see what you have need of. If you want to be baptized, hey, we're already doing it. Why don't you come on forward? We'll do more than one. We'll do multiple ones. Be awesome. Thank you.